All right, welcome to another episode of Violent Minds. I'm Mark Chauppetta, your resident private investigator, and sitting next to me at another location is
Dr. Keith Ablow, forensic psychiatrist, author, whatever, if people don't know by now, I don't know.
Hey, you're a
I'm
lot
turning
of
60. I mean, how long do you have to, kind of imprint yourself on the world? Not an infinite amount of time.
Are you turning 60? Like, when's your birthday?
November 23rd.
Is it really? Let me write that down.
Yeah, the Rocky sweatshirt that you have would be, I'm a large.
A large? Okay.
A large, yeah, just so you know. But I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying the one you were wearing on a prior broadcast of ours, I thought was fetching.
So it's your 60th birthday in 3 days.
Can you imagine?
How do you feel about that?
You know what, Mark? I've always felt mortality circling very close. I've never had this denial of death that people have. In fact, I won't even say who it was. Well, but I met with a Democratic United States senator who doesn't hate me. Most of them do. But he was saying I could run for president now, or I could do it in 4 years at that time, right? This goes back several years. And I said, or you could get up tomorrow morning, right? And you go head to the bathroom and it's all blood. There's no 4-year thing, like you've lost me. Why do you have any confidence that you could do it now or you could do it in 4 years? You sound to me like a lunatic. If you think you want to do that and you think you could, you better do it now, because people, you could have a stroke tonight.
Right. Isn't that called?
So I've never felt so 60 to me. Yeah. I felt vulnerable to mortality. It's probably my Jewish heritage. At 30, I thought that, anything might happen. My mother was all concerned, oh my God, you have a new freckle. It could be melanoma.
Right.
Get you over the plastic surgeon.
Yeah. That's called procrastination though, and being afraid, and, that's, a lot.
Procrastination. I don't think it's called procrastination.
Saying I can do it in 4 years as opposed to.
Well, that's true. I didn't know what you were referencing. That's my bad.
Yeah, I'm not talking about your freckle.
You're like, well, why weren't you going to the plastic surgeon sooner? That's procrastination.
No, this U.S. senator, that's called procrastination. And I've also often been criticized from people in my life or in my close circles for not thinking things out and kind of taking the approach of, thinking on the fly. And figuring it out as you go along. And you know what, I always said, if it doesn't make sense on paper, that's when you should go for it, and do it. And then you'll get through the process as you're learning. So that's always my philosophy in life. Where a lot of people are afraid to take risks, but what you're saying about mortality and death. Yeah. You know what? I've been feeling that a lot lately. The last, I don't know, it just hit me all of a sudden, maybe the last like 6 or 7 years, I'll be 53. And I think a lot about being old and getting old. And I think it's because of the constant reminders we have shoved in our face about when we were younger.
Oh, you think so? That's interesting.
I think it plays a huge role psychologically, especially with, which we're going to talk a little bit about today with the media and how there's so much media out there and social media and things that remind you of your youth.
Yes. So anyhow, I got this pair of sneakers. Actually, it was a gift that I said. My parents were like, "What do you want for your 60th?" So I said, "Well, there are these sneakers. They're kind of expensive. They're high tops." And then they arrived, and I had to say to my assistant, Tiffany, does it look like I'm having a midlife crisis? I don't want to wear anything where I go into the restaurant across the street and they're like, yeah, he must have turned 60. Look at him. He thinks he's Michael Jordan now.
Are they Nikes?
No, I can't wear Nikes because of their crazy positions on our culture. Yes. And in fact, I'm creating these patches.
Yeah.
So I hope I follow through. I trademarked this slogan, "Just done with it," instead of "just do it."
You gotta get.
And the patches are of an eagle with a flag. Yeah. And I'm going to sell these to cover up your swooshes.
Hey, well, yeah, well, expect a fight with Nike. It's very funny that you said you asked it. The fact that you have the blessing of having parents at 60 years old that can still buy you a pair of sneakers, like that's something that
It's remarkable. I mean,
that
it
you
is.
ask for when you're 12. You're, you're
That's
60 years
true. I
old and
mean,
you asked your parent, you're 60 years old, you're a well-to-do guy and you ask your parents to buy you a pair of sneakers.
well, because I don't want, because I don't want to seem presumptuous or anything else, but it's really amazing. I don't presume to have any number of years left. And yet my dad, who's 92, if I said to him, you want to have a cup of coffee? He'd say, yeah, I'll drive up from Marblehead, right? So an hour, he'll hit the road. My dad used to drive. That's how he solved problems, right?
Yeah.
So you get suspended from school. It wasn't fair. This happened to me. I'll be there.
Yeah.
He's in his car. It was a caddy. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And
right.
so, interesting.
Probably has a cup of coffee on the dashboard, and it doesn't even splash over because he's driving so perfectly.
There you go. But 92, God bless him. I mean, the fact that you can still drive to the mall with your wife who's 89 and, have a coffee, not bad.
That's amazing. I mean, you are are beyond lucky. My parents are both
I'm
deceased, and
sorry to hear that, buddy.
yeah, at a very, very, very young age. I was in my 20s when I lost my parents to cancer, and I mean, God, you're extremely blessed. So these sneakers, is it kind of like the puffy shirt on Seinfeld?
Hold on a second.
Oh, you got them.
Yeah, I got them. I mean, they're
Those
kind
are
of cool.
sneakers?
These are, yeah, they're gray flannel and leather. So I kind of liked the combo.
Who puts them out?
This is Zania.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they come from some country named Zania?
I think they're from Italy, but they're very comfortable. And I thought that they were like they're not in your face. So I can kind of get away with it. Like I tried to do with a Harley when I was like 40. Yeah. I turned 40 or 45.
Harley.
I bought a Harley Fat Boy. I go riding on Route 95. The first time I took it out, it was raining. Yeah. I was with my friend Red Donovan.
Yeah.
And, these guys are real guys, right? They really ride. I'm like a Jewish shrink trying to pretend. Yeah. Naturally, I fall down on Route 95 in the rain and slide down the road. The bike comes to a stop. And I get up and I looked at my legs and my arms. I said, I'm fine.
Wow.
And my friend Red said, it's a miracle.
No road rash.
Nothing.
Wow.
Like I think the side of the bike, the handlebar was shaved down and like the peg for the wheel was shaved down.
I hope after that you just sold the damn thing and never rode again.
No, he said, actually, like a good dad. He was another surrogate father of mine. He said,
on the horse,
get back on it. He said, if you don't get back on it tonight, and it was still running, you'll never get back on it.
But did you tear your expensive jeans you were wearing? I'm sure.
No, I don't think I had a single. I would have kept them. Are you kidding me? I would have framed them as evidence that I had survived the night.
No, I don't think those are really considered sneakers. Like I think though, like you could wear those with I think you could wear those with suit pants.
Yeah, if you were cooler than me, you could.
I mean,
cooler than I am, because you have to. This reminds me, by the way, I went to Argentina once with friends of mine.
Been there, great country.
I visited this guy, Alan Faena, because my friends were going to invest in his hotels. Now he has hotels in America too. And, he's heterosexual, as far as I know. I don't know. But that night he was with a girl and other girls were like coming up to him at this restaurant. Now he arrives wearing a black wool skirt down to his ankles and a tight fitting black t-shirt with high tops. And I said, see, Alan, if I wore that, like people would hospitalize me. You look good in a way, but I could never. And he had a white cowboy hat too. I mean, they would just hospitalize me.
Wow. Well, hey, I mean, So you want to hear what I had done this week before we get into the subject? I think people would rather just hear us talk about our lives because they're both so damn interesting. And this is the Violent Minds podcast. Make sure you log on to violentminds.com. There's links to Dr. Keith Ablow. There's links to myself. You can hook up with me as far as any investigative services. You can hook up with Dr. Keith Ablow as far as any of the multitude of things that you need from him and the help that he gives people. So
let's delve into your minds. So what happened to you this week? Enough about me.
I had my colonoscopy.
So did I. You
had it
did
this week too?
Yeah, we should have gone together. What happened?
Really?
So what happened?
Oh my God. Like, well, first of all, it's the process leading up, the prep work leading up was tough.
Just a pain in, well, yeah.
Pain in the ass, no pun intended, and my doctor said, my instructions were to drink. I had to take 4 Docalox pills, which at first to start, which flushes you out, and then I had to drink. I had to do a whole bottle of Mylanta mixed in with Gatorade, and I had
Mylanta or Miralax.
Sorry, Mylanta.
Yeah,
I had to do the Miralax powder in the Gatorade, and then drink that. So I had my last supper, as you would call it, on Tuesday night. My appointment wasn't until 2:00 on Thursday, so I had to get up Wednesday, and I was only, we were only allowed to have either chicken broth or Jello. So I had a couple of things of Jello, and basically said, "Fuck it," and
I have extra here if you want. I bought, like, my assistant went out and bought, like, I don't know what she thought, like, that we're gonna have Jello for the rest of our lives, but the pantry's full of it.
I got a shit ton also, and I'm like, Jello without Cool Whip? I mean, what's the point? But so yeah, of course I shit my brains out all night, and it actually felt pretty good to kind of, there was stuff coming out that was been up in my colon since 1986, like just getting everything out. It's like a really good reset of your body.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of information there, but okay.
Yeah, well, then I went and had the procedure done, and I'm not very good with surgical procedures. Like, other than my vasectomy, I've never had a surgical procedure. And it was,
you got a vasectomy. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, right. I know. So it was a pretty good process. I mean, as far as going under, it's probably the deepest I've ever slept in my life. Because I've never been under anesthesia. You have it on.
Wow.
All right, you're gonna feel a little burning in your hand, which they probably told you. And then you're saying
they didn't actually, but that's what that's the anesthetic flowing in.
Anesthetic going in, and then you're like, I'm fine, and you say to yourself, it ain't working. And the next thing you know, you wake up an hour later.
You wake up in recovery, right?
I woke up in the nurse Cratchit.
Yeah.
I just remember her saying, like, how do you, Mark, you're awake, or Mark, how do you feel? And I'm like, fuck. And she went, please don't use that language.
Can you imagine?
I'm coming out of sedation, and I said the
right.
F word,
Ridiculous.
Insane.
People have lost their minds. They've lost their minds.
People, right. I'm like, are you fucking I didn't say you're fucking kidding me. I felt like,
I don't think my anesthesiologist, like, he didn't roll with me on this thing. So look, when I was practicing psychiatry, people benefited, and it's the darling of psychiatry now. I was one of the first psychiatrists to deploy ketamine, which is an anesthetic and a street drug, but it's also a powerful antidepressant, right? So if you give it IV to people who, were thinking of literally ending their lives, turn the corner in inexplicable ways and embrace life again. Right. Yeah, amazing. It's amazing. And so it's like the biggest advance in psychiatry in the last 50 years. So the anesthesiologist comes in, he's like, listen, I just want to meet you. We're going to do Versed and this and this. And I said, if it's all the same to you, could we use ketamine?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, he was like, it's not like a restaurant. He's like, this is not, I'm like, I know, but like the mood effects, like the benefits in terms of a reset are well known. And I was like, if you're going to put me to sleep, you might as well use the stuff that'll improve my mood. I tend to be rather, crotchety myself at times.
Yeah.
Well, it's ever since the DEA raid, of my offices.
Yeah, I guess the DEA.
I have like
more down.
PTSD. I have like PDEASD or something. Yeah, like I'm looking out the door and I'm like a siren now. I'm like, here we go again.
Yeah, that must be tough, the fact that every time you hear a siren come by, are you on edge?
Every no, I'm not on edge every time, but like it can be that a loud knock on the door.
Right. Just
I'm like, and usually it's my handyman, Lincoln Agner,
yeah.
who is the nicest human in the world and looks a little bit like, who's the lead singer of the Rolling Stones? Mick Jagger. He looks like Mick Jagger. He's like 50 something. He's thin as a rail. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. Literally one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And he like does odd jobs because he's so smart and he's an artist, right? He also paints canvases, beautiful stuff. But anyhow, if he knocks way too loud, I'm like, oh, all right, there you go. It's the battering ram.
Show someday and talk about that, and if you want to
maybe in several years or something.
Talk about that. So as far as your ass goes, did they find it? Like I had they took a polyp out of mine, and they're checking it for I'm sure it's benign. It's common to have.
Yeah, God willing, I'm sure it's fine.
Knock on wood. They found a few other things up there I'd rather not disclose, but
gerbils.
Right, gerbils and things of that nature. But the problem,
no, they gave me a God bless them, a clean bill of health. And what's interesting to me, by the way, we could keep going on this, but I think there's like planned obsolescence, like with products.
Yeah.
They take them, right? They're made to break, right? Because you got to buy another one.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, they don't recommend colonoscopies, routine colonoscopies after like age 75.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, I guess they would say, well, the risks of anesthesia. I think that's bullshit.
Right.
I think, I want to know if I have colon cancer at 77.
But you could is that your first one?
No, it's probably like no, you have to understand. I always think I'm dying. So I go to my doctor and I'm like, here's the thing, Scott. Like I have this, and this. He's like, oh, you think you have lymphoma.
So you're on WebMD all the time?
Not that I think I do.
Are you a WebMD whore?
I learned it all in med school. I mean, so it's like, I'm like, listen, Scott, when I lay down, sometimes the room spins a little bit. So I think what's happening is that the artery at the back of my neck is pressing on my medulla in my brain. Now, he's like, I wish you hadn't said that. I said, why? He said, because now we got to get an MRI.
Oh boy. Yeah, right? You are too much, but
then, MRIs can be good for mood. They've proven that, the magnetic energy. So I'm like, oh, MRI, give me ketamine and an MRI. I'll be good for another month.
What else is good? Well, first of all, I'm glad that you had a clean bill of health.
Thanks. You too. I hope the polyp is,
I'm sure it's okay. This is my first colonoscopy. I did the at-home ones.
You did an at-home colonoscopy?
Yeah, the shit in the box things there. You see those advertisements?
Oh yeah. I thought you tried to jerry rig some sort of a tube. I was like, wow, you're hardcore, man.
The problem I had
colonoscopy. Wow.
TMI.
Did the diagnostic test for occult blood. Yeah.
I guess to be a little TMI, which I really don't give a shit. Again, no pun intended. But after I had mine, I had extreme bloating and gas inside my stomach from it.
Yeah, definitely too much information. Yeah.
So the nurse made me get like in doggy down position.
Really?
On the bed. Yeah.
Why?
Because it helps push the air out of you.
No, that's not a thing. She was attracted to you. Or one of the male nurses was. That is not a clinical reality. Get in this position, dude, you have a big lawsuit to file.
Nurse Cratchit made me get on my knees. It's probably because I swore. But the pain.
No, I think she liked it. It was paradoxical. When you said that, she had to say don't, because it was a thing for her. And then immediately she said, can you get in this doggy position?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, dude, you got to call an attorney.
Do people not get in the doggy down position?
No, that's like, no, she was just messing with you.
And then the air was coming out, and she would come back in and be like, I heard that. Good job.
Yeah, she's a weirdo. She's a weirdo, right? She's like, she's a predator. So
Well,
anyhow, yeah, we can do
anyhow,
a
I
whole
do now. I
violent
feel
Why
a
don't we
little
get her on
dirty.
the show? We can't find guests. Why don't we
Right,
get
right.
this nurse on the show?
I feel a little dirty now. I mean,
Wow. Man,
That's-
you
is
were
that like-
assaulted.
is that
You were
sexual
assaulted.
abuse? Yeah,
Huh?
is that sexual abuse?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a tough guy, but it's okay to feel vulnerable and, you know, you can,
Psychologically, sexual abuse. All
I don't
right.
know if it brought up anything from your past. I know that, you know,
I think they found it in my colon.
yeah, there you go. Well, so
All right, so that was my week. Afterwards, I went and had a meal, and it almost felt like I had like lap band surgery because my stomach was so shrunk. It was actually pretty cool to
yeah, you know,
want to pig out.
it did make me think, like, you know, and I said again to my assistant, because, you know, I sometimes work at the front table. She works in her office. So like we're
Yeah,
20 feet apart. I said, you know, Jesus did this for 40 days. How did he do that? Like, I mean,
Right.
he drank liquid, granted, you know, he was drinking water, but that's it. So he did it. He did it for 40 days. You can do it. Like they have clinics in Russia and elsewhere, I think, where if you have, say, cancer, there's this whole thought that the cancer cells are the most hungry
right.
for energy
Yeah,
because they're chomping up everything else. So they need constant fuel. So there's a theory that if you fast, like for a month,
yeah.
that you can kill the cancer, which isn't a crazy theory, actually, because everybody's telling you, eat, keep your weight up. But your body's not telling you that. Your body's like, I have no appetite. So in a way, if you were thinking about it intuitively, you'd say, wait, maybe I'm not supposed to eat. Maybe it's, you know, if you just declared war, I just wonder these things sometimes. If you declared war on the cancer, and I'm not recommending this to anyone.
Yeah.
I've had enough lawsuits.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you just were to not eat and declare war on the cancer and say, look, it's you or me. One of us is going to give. I'm going to either die of starvation or you're going to stop multiplying like a banshee.
Not a bad.
I don't know who wins.
Yeah,
But in
it's
Russia, they think that you win, not the cancer.
not a bad theory, and it makes sense.
Makes sense.
You know,
Deprive the cancer of energy.
deprive it of energy, but then you just die of starvation.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It is interesting. I mean, you'd have to look demographically too, like epidemiologically at who gets cancer.
Right.
Are there people who are thin as a rail to begin with? Really thin.
That's another fear of mine is getting cancer. And it's like, you hit this age where you're starting, your friends of yours are passing away, and, you feel like invincible when you're in your teens and your 20s and your 30s. And then all of a sudden the shit just starts happening. And it's, all you can really do is, no one knows what their blueprint is in life, and no one knows when their date of death is. And, you just gotta take precautions. You gotta try to exercise, eat fairly healthy, and, and then those are usually the ones that drop dead, and the ones that smoke 3 packs of cigarettes.
That's true.
And eat,
Well, that's actually, it's funny. It reminds me because I fell on Route 95. My friend Charlie Donovan, again, Red Donovan, said to me, he's got this guy, he's always like taking trips to other states on the Harley. He's going all over the United States. But he said, there's this guy, there's a beautiful one in the neighborhood, and he just rides around the block. That's it. Just rides around the block back into the garage. He said, I just want that guy to get hit by a bus.
right.
It's like, anyhow, but
Bastard. You know who also had a colonoscopy this week? And it was probably believe it or not, it was probably when this country was the most vulnerable. You know who had one?
oh, I know Biden, but he's
Biden had
over
one, and
75, right?
He put Kamala in charge for the
Yeah,
hour.
and by the way, for better or worse, I was the first one in the world to suggest, I was the first one in the world to suggest that the president, who I wish well, you know, had dementia. I said that back in 2013, and took a tremendous amount of heat for it. But I said, look, you know, looking at what I can from the debates when he was debating as vice presidential candidate, I think there's an element of dementia. I was on Fox News at the time, and man, you know, like an onslaught of naysayers and haters. I'm sure I was right. I was seeing something there.
Yes. Yes.
But you know, you just you do wonder anyhow. There are people who are doing lots of things in the world who, you know, have an element to that that's starting, and Reagan did, and he was a formidable guy into his second term, through his second term. So you know, hey, I'm not judging, but I did call it.
Well, on that note, you know, speaking of the media, and to kind of follow up, which we have to organically from last week's or the last episode.
Oh yeah,
Violent Minds. Yesterday, there was an acquittal on this.
Thank God.
Rittenhouse case, and you know, it's caused a lot of debate and a lot of stir. Last night the sun went down and everything seemed to be calm and peaceful. So maybe people are learning, but not guilty on all counts. It was a pretty interesting thing to watch. You know, there was no gloating, there was no jumping or fist pumping. It was just, you know, he just broke down the kid, and you know, I think his defense team did an excellent job trying this case from what I saw, and I think the prosecution did a horrible job on this case. And it just goes to show, you know, and I'm reading all the social media posts and I'm seeing different sides, you know, and you can explain this. How can two people see things so differently in life? You know, like, you know, when it comes to, you know, it comes to a subject, you know, like this, you know, someone just have an opinion so one-sided and the other one the other sided. Like, you know, explain that to me. Like, sometimes it blows my mind how, like, I see something one way and I look at the other side, I'm like, how do they see it that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's actually a good question. And then I have a question for you, for sure. But so how do they see it so diametrically differently? So I think actually people are vulnerable to, obviously, if they have a worldview, they tend to see everything through that worldview. If you don't believe in the Second Amendment, if you don't believe in that, and if you don't believe particularly that every person has the right to do whatever is allowed under the law, right? If you instead think, you know what, these people are trying to take apart the world, and then you see a kid go with an AR-15 into a town where his dad lives, but he doesn't, and he's 17 or whatever at the time, with an AR-15, and you think that's insanity, those people think.
Right.
I just defer to the facts and say it's legal. That's the end of the discussion. It's legal. You don't have any business with him at that point. But I think that's the diametrically opposed view. Democrats believe the state has business with everyone in every facet of their lives, that there are no boundaries. They can inject you with needles. They can force you not to show your face, not to come out of your house. I'm talking about COVID right now. They can, right? The state is supreme. There's a diametrically opposed view right now that says, no, the individual is supreme. And those different lenses, by the way, have in the past resulted in people going to war and millions of people dying. And so, you know, Kenosha, it's nothing.
Right.
Okay. Because right now there are people in this country saying it's not going to end without war. That's the terrible line that we're walking right now, where people are like, well, if what you're saying is I'm going to have to cede my autonomy and not carry a weapon, even though I've done nothing wrong in my life,
Right.
well, then let's go to war.
But I think what people, I think what, certain left-wing people are misunderstanding is like they're, this whole incident, the government failing to control the streets, having the police stand down, so to speak, the media spinning it that these were just peaceful rallies,
Yeah,
prompted people to go out and buy more guns.
well, sure.
So they want gun control, but in the same breath, their antics have forced people to go out and purchase more guns
To purchase more guns.
to protect themselves, because they're the left-hand side, they're the ones that are the defund the police. And I mean, the government should have controlled the damn streets. They shouldn't have allowed that to happen. That was not a peaceful rally, and everyone sees it. Anyone that has half a brain sees that that wasn't a peaceful rally. Those 3 days in Kenosha, they were burning buildings, ruining people's lives. The police were standing down. They were sitting in their cruisers. They were standing packed, doing nothing because of the government and what they told them to do. And
totally. And then, you have this kid and people are like, well, he had no business being there. You know what? It's not your business whether he had business. That's the point, is that, like, listen, just go back to, did he have a law? Did the law allow him to make that decision? Then get away from his decision-making. It's not up to you.
The burden was on the prosecution, and they had to basically prove that, did he use reasonable force or did he not use reasonable force? And
well, what kind of a lunatic attacks someone with an AR-15, like with a skateboard?
Right.
Like, what? Like, dude, what a bad plan.
So what's your question for me?
Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't important. No, I'm
No?
just kidding. No, it was actually. So if you were going to, let's say you were working for the prosecution. I know you only do defense, right?
I do. Yes, I do.
All right. So
I'm a defense guy.
You're a defense guy. So let's say, all right, we'll keep you on your side of the fence.
Thank you.
So you're doing defense. In terms of the victims, who, by the way, and they're not victims, they were aggressors. See, I've fallen into it. In terms of the guys who tried to kill Kyle Rittenhouse before he killed them, what would you be researching about the people who tried to murder Kyle Rittenhouse before he shot them in an act of self-defense, in order to show, listen, these aren't angels? What would you do?
You asked me this question before. You're getting old.
What about them? Did I?
Getting dementia?
I asked you about them?
I think so, yeah.
Well, forget it then, so people can just review.
It's basic common sense. It's, you need to basically, and it was no secret that all these guys were the scum of the scum. We're talking pedophiles, felons, these people were horrible people. And for me as an investigator, my job's pretty easy. It's all right there. It's all right there in public record. They've done everything. It's out there. It's out there for someone like me as an investigator to obtain. And then maybe I dig a little bit deeper into their lives, a little bit more into their background, or their neighborhood, or where they grew up, or different layers of victims that maybe that they've committed crimes on.
And will you go back as far as the money sort of funds? Like, when I wrote a book, I had a friend killed by an anesthesiologist. He was an elderly anesthesiologist. I wrote a book about the killer. And so I got his yearbook from high school, and he was in his 60s at the time. And I wrote to every single person that I could find an address for and said, can you tell me?
Right.
Well, now you could do Facebook. Back then you really couldn't.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But now you could. Do you do that? Do you send out messages to anyone connected to the person on Facebook saying, would you mind telling me about?
100%. I use Facebook Instant Messenger all the time to connect with people and talk to people and do backgrounds and my due diligence that way. 100%. I will dig and I will unturn stones that other people may not unturn.
Yep.
just to pull up information on them, just to, show that maybe their character wasn't such. Yeah, 100%. And again, these people that were killed, the two that were killed, they have families. And, I now the media is trying to spin it. There's a lot of posts out there about the moms and of the family members that were killed. And I do feel for them. My heart feels for them. Those are their children. But the law is the law. And,
Yeah.
the jury based the evidence on guilty or innocent. And the prosecution presented a shit case. And that's
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
And you still have lunatics out there like, Joe Biden
Yeah.
saying, Pete, go out there, protest peacefully. We have a lot of work to do in this country.
Right.
What are you talking about?
But the media, and I know there's some quotes, I saw an interesting quote from, what was it? From Malcolm X. Gosh, man, it goes.
No, he's passed away.
He has passed away.
You weren't watching him. No, that's not a thing. You were hallucinating then, or dreaming post colonoscopy.
Well, so you don't want me to read his
quote? Oh, it's a quote from, I see what you're saying, from when he was alive. I thought you were saying
not now.
Media
He's
has
dead.
Responded in a bad way. I was watching Malcolm X, for instance, and I'm like, geez, my partner's gone. He's gone.
Great
go
movie.
on.
But he says this is the media, an irresponsible media. It will make a criminal look like he's a victim. It'll make a victim look like he's a criminal. If you aren't careful, the media will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. I don't know if I 100% believe in that quote, but
that's great.
Yeah, it's a great quote. He's got a ton of great quotes, but what he's basically saying, this is back in the 60s. And the media, all they had for the media back then was the newspapers. So, you had television and you had the newspapers, but the media pushes, I think, so many lies in so many narratives out there that dump gasoline on things like Kenosha that create violence. And
absolutely,
that violence wouldn't have happened if the media didn't push for this. Joe Biden called Rittenhouse a white supremacist to get votes.
He's going to get sued, by the way. He's going to end up getting sued for that. But Rittenhouse is going to be so wealthy. It's insane how wealthy this kid's going to be. Insane.
Just like the Nick Sandman kid.
Yeah.
That
he got 250 million.
That kid, 17 years old, in the media, just because he was wearing a MAGA hat.
Right.
They painted him with the Native American gentleman, and everyone probably remembers that, but he was, vilified. He still is, and he will be for the rest of his life. Obviously, he's going to be a very wealthy young man, is a wealthy young man, but what the media did to him. Now, I'm just saying, report shit the way it should be reported.
That's not what the media does. The Boston Globe's as bad as anyone, by the way. We're here in Boston. They're just assassins trying to sell newspapers, number one, but destroy anyone who's a Republican, number two. The worst of the worst. These people are what Trump used to call just, liars, thugs.
Right. I mean, I don't know. They were trying to paint this kid.
Anyone who works for the Boston Globe, to me, I'm telling you, anybody who would take money from the Boston Globe is a piece of crap. I
have a close friend who works for the Globe and works in a certain department. He's not a reporter or anything, but he's been there forever, and he's a sweet guy. We have some political debates at times.
Yeah, they thought that about lots of people being paid by the German Third Reich. They're nice guys.
Right.
They're just happy to take a paycheck. It's okay. No, your friend is part of a monster, and he's filling his belly with the money of the monster.
See, so then don't I assume
I don't know. I'm being a little extreme.
I assume you don't watch the Boston Red Sox for that case, then, right?
Because
they own the Boston Red Sox as well.
Oh, the Globe. Oh, well, it's what, John Henry or whatever.
Henry, yeah. You know, so justice is done when truth, I guess, is reached, and truth was reached on this case. You know,
Yes.
they had a trial.
Yes.
The jury deliberated for what, 4 days? 3 days?
4 days.
4 days?
I think 4 days. Yeah.
So they were very thorough, you know,
Seemingly.
in
Yeah.
their deliberation. I just the whole political racial backdrop that this case has had, and some of the quotes that are coming out. You know, they painted this kid as an active shooter, and they were wrong.
Yeah. I mean, he might be, he's probably not your average, you know, American, but a young man. But in another way, by the way, everything, as Mike Tyson said, everything is a matter of time and perspective.
Can you say it like Mike Tyson, though?
I can't. Can you?
No, I can't talk.
Everything is, I don't know. He's, yeah. So he said matters of civility and violence are a matter of time and perspective.
Right.
So, you know, during the Revolutionary War, if you were a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old or a 14-year-old and you grabbed a musket and headed to the green, you were a patriot.
Yes.
Now, a 17-year-old who says, I'm going to try to contain the riot. It seems like no element of the government is doing anything to clean up these buildings, to render first aid. I'm going to go and do that, is seen as, you know, some kind of lunatic fringe player. Whereas in 1776 or earlier, you would have been saying, yeah, well, dude, why aren't you out there? Get out there,
Right.
grab a musket and go to the green. Why are you in here?
Right. 100%. So, I mean, this was a victory. I guess some would say, the people on the right would say it's a victory for self-defense, a victory for the Second Amendment, a victory for those that hate child molesters, that hate thugs, that don't like riots, that don't like buildings being knocked down.
I feel badly that people got killed, but if
Yes.
you try to kill someone, that's what's going to happen.
And I think the left, it's a loss for them, because I think that they were trying to spin the narrative to try to help further defund the police. And
the left is no friend of facts. In fact, I think a big push from the left is that there are no facts. The emperor has clothes. Women can be men can be women. Maybe you're neither. Maybe you're part alien. Maybe it doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. Which is basically goes along with embracing drug culture, embracing fiction of every kind, loving every kind of metaverse, Facebook verse, this, that. They have no internal anchor. They hate the self.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And, you know, Biden came out and gave a quote after this, you know, and he backtracked a little bit, you know, from his original quotes, calling him a white supremacist. But he said he's not happy about the verdict, but he stands by the jury.
Not happy. Who asked?
Right. I remember back, and again, I'm not acting like a Trumpster here, but I remember back when this happened, Biden was running for president, and I believe, was he running? Yeah, Biden was running for president, and Trump was president. And Biden called Rittenhouse a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Trump, without even, from what is reported, doing his homework on it, Trump looked at the video, looked at him running away, looked at him getting attacked, looked at him defending himself, and kind of gave more of an honest and proper assessment of what actually went down. I mean, I just think someone of his highest ranking, it's irresponsible. I think the media, in some respects, should be culpable for this violence, because they help incite it. You know, and people aren't smart enough to look past a headline.
Right.
they read a fucking headline and then they go talk to 20 people around the water cooler or people that are somewhat like-minded, and that's how that shit just kind of snowballs. But but the media is so powerful, and you've dealt with it. You've dealt with the media in some of your own personal situations in your life, I know, and
Sure.
things that have been said. I haven't gotten to that extreme level of power and fame like you have.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
I don't know if I'd be able to. I don't know how I would. I don't know how I would handle it if I was put in a situation like you've been put in the past.
Well, and you never know what's coming up in the future, but I think what you have to do, first of all, let me say this about that. No, seriously. So one thing I'll say about it is you're better off looking at things quizzically and saying, interesting.
Right.
Huh, what am I to make of this? Because otherwise, if you don't stay a little bit on the perimeter and look in on your own life, you can drown in your own life. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's like, just look at it and realize, you know what? I'm still breathing. If I want, I can walk out my door and go get a cup of coffee. Like I'm a privileged person compared to folks in war-torn Sudan, it's
Very privileged.
whatever. So there's that. But also what I'll say is, you say, I don't know how I would handle that. And I think what you've faced with adversity in your own family, your son's confronting illness in the way that they have. I'm like, I faced nothing compared to you.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right. No, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I'd probably fight it the same way. And yeah, you know what? You're 100% right. And there's a couple of, like, there's a quote here. I'm not going to say who said it, but this is a celebrity that's got millions of followers. And this celebrity says, little racist prick went out of state with an AR looking for trouble. If he wants to patrol something, he's allowed to patrol his own home. This is not justice. This is bullshit. That's a quote. Another quote: to be black and illegally armed in America means you will be executed by the police or incarcerated if you're lucky. To be white and illegally armed in America means you could murder 2 people on camera and go home as a hero. Like these.
Except he wasn't illegally armed, so there's a little problem there.
Right. Again, the facts there are wrong. And
right.
I mean, again, it all goes back to Jake. It all goes back to the Blake case, and it all goes back to that, and that individual being shot, and but that police officer was found not at fault, and they did a thorough investigation on him. So isn't that what this world is built on? Aren't we built on the legal system and checks and balances? I mean,
yeah, but
I think society has moved on, Doc, where we need to be colorblind. Like I think the majority of people are colorblind nowadays. Like
seems I mean, I'd like to think
but the
that
media is not.
Right. Well, the media is,
but people are.
well, you're the hunted variety, as am I. White males in America are not currently in favor.
Yeah, we're not fashionable.
No, go try to find, what's that?
Especially wearing those shoes. Oh, the sneakers. We're gonna call them snooze, like sneaker shoes.
Right, wearing sneaker shoes, half wool, half leather, made in Italy. Yeah, no, look, you're a target. And
back when you leave.
Right,
So
exactly.
you'll be able to run better though, with those new sneakers.
You think so? Maybe once they're broken in. It's weird though, when you walk outside, which I've done twice with these.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Do I really want to walk outside with them? Should I keep them as like house shoes?
Now, when your parents gave them to you,
yeah,
did you lie them next to your bed like when you were 8 and stare at them all night when you're falling asleep?
Well, when you get these shoes or anything like them, right? Like anybody who likes sneakers, I don't love sneakers, but I like these sneakers. I have, by the way, I should confess, I have the low tops of these, not the wool leather combo. It's a suede leather combo. But anyhow, I kept them in their little felt bags for days, hanging on a doorknob, right? Because they have a little bag for each one, like a lot of sneakers do. And then I've I've broken them out so that I've been wearing them here in my, little cottage.
Mhm.
And then someone mentioned this morning, hey, I was walking by your house and I'm a little worried. I thought I saw a squirrel, this is a true story, eating some of the trim outside on your gable.
Yeah.
So I like walked outside and then I got like 15 feet toward the gable. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got my sneakers on.
You got mud on them?
I didn't make the decision to walk
Oh.
outside with them, but then now it's done. And so now I feel like, okay,
So you,
I
so you crossed
should I
that
get spray?
psychological threshold in your brain. Like,
Yeah, they've been outside. Should I get that's like there's a spray you can like protect
get those like rubber things my dad used to put on his shoes. Like,
galoshes? Like,
yeah, the galoshes. Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's probably a good idea.
Well, that's another thing I have, by the way. Just I can be shot easily when I walk out the front door when it rains. So I don't know why, and they've never worn out. I've had them for like 15 years, which is probably why they were worth it. 1 year, Gucci made rubber loafers.
Oh.
And I've had them for 15 years. They were like $150 for the rubber ones, or 179. It was like a bargain for the brand. But anyhow, I amortize everything. I don't know how you are with this, but I think, how much is it per wearing?
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't even know what
You know?
amortize means to be able to do it.
Well,
But
it's like break it up per day. So if I were to buy the Rocky sweatshirt for $59.99, I looked that up online.
oh, you did look it up. You know what my wife just bought me and it came? I was an early Christmas present.
What?
She bought me the Rocky hat.
Oh, great.
I wanted it really bad. So there's a whole process. Like, how do you buy a hat online? Like, you got to try
Right.
hats on. So she like tape measured my head. Like, yeah, it gave you like instructions how to
Oh,
my head.
do you
So
like it?
well, it came the other day. She's like, look, I'm just going to give it to you. And I put it on, it didn't fit. Like, I didn't know you had because I came in as having a medium size dome.
You need a large.
But yeah, so now we have to go through this huge process to return it. She's like, I'm not going to get you
in the
another
neck.
one. And you only get a credit, you don't get your money back. So I'm like, look, I go, I want the hat. She's like, why? You're gonna, because I want to be like freaking Rocky.
Like Rocky. You want to be like Rocky.
Anyways, I figured it.
Like here's a terrible. So I have an ex-wife, only one.
Yes.
And so wow, it's amazing I can talk about it now. I couldn't like talk about it for the first 2 years.
Tell me about
now
it.
I can talk about it barely.
Tell me about her, doctor.
About what?
Talk to me about your ex-wife. We're playing role.
Well, I will, but the first thing I wanted to say is 1 year she bought me red boxing gloves signed by Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Now, they weren't cheap.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and they were returnable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they came with like a card of authenticity, which showed Muhammad Ali like this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And two big guys next to him who looked to me like they were gonna like execute him if he didn't keep signing.
Yeah.
Sign the fucking glove. You sign the gloves.
Yeah.
I had to return them because I'm like, this is just not right. This is weird.
Hope you gave that money to the Parkinson's disease.
The Parkinson's group, but also I felt like, I know people collect autographed things.
Yeah.
But I felt a little bit weird anyhow. Like it seemed like evidence to me that I was, and this is my narcissism, that I was like a wannabe. Yeah. Because like, I'm like, if Muhammad Ali gave me his boxing gloves and signed them, Keith, I love you, I would treasure them. To pay $1,500 or whatever they were, $1,000 or $500, whatever it is, to have something signed by Muhammad Ali, I'm like, I don't know. I'm
not big into signatures. I got a few things here, but autographs to me, I got one by Johnny Carson, who I worship.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, but I didn't get it in person. I wish I had, but I was going to say, before we wrap up the show, violentminds.com is our website. I would figure at 60 years old, you'd be getting some of those Posturepedic sneakers.
Or inserts or something, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, at your age. But I want to ask you another question. I'm just curious. Like, do you have stock in Pledge?
In
Because
I
like,
know, right?
because that would drive me fucking bonkers. Like I would be pledging the fuck out of that.
I know. Well, it stood the test of time. And one of the reasons is this guy. So I hired this guy, Joe Jacques,
Yeah.
was 75. He did the entire interior himself, which is all wood. Like it's all like that. And the best story about Joe, who had like only a few teeth,
Yeah.
felt hat,
Yeah.
um,
Did he look like a rock?
smelled of alcohol.
Did he look like a rock star like your other guy?
No, he looked like poetry.
Oh.
He looked like a guy that you'd see coming out of a bar in the city, with 3 days growth of beard or whatever. And so someone said to me here in Newburyport, they said, I saw the sign on your building, Joe Jacques.
Yes.
Do you know that he was a Marine?
Oh.
So I come back and he was working still on the house. It was like a shell. He was doing the interior. And I was downstairs. He was upstairs working on the bookcase. And I said from downstairs, "Hey, Joe, I heard you were a Marine." And from upstairs, all he said was, "Ain't nothing were about it."
Oh, you never say we're a Marine.
Isn't that great?
A long time. I am a Marine.
Exactly.
A fucking karate
Ain't nothing
chop.
were about it.
Yeah, he was gonna karate chop your ass. All right,
Exactly.
well, on that note, we talked a little bit. I think we talked more about our lives because I think we're just so extremely interesting, and we're yin.
We're really perpetually fascinating.
I think so as well.
At least to each other, not so much other people.
I think it's going to catch on. Violent Minds, violentminds.com, and I think people are going to enjoy the kind of going back and forth. And we're a little yin and yangish,
DBA television, right? Yeah.
Right, 100%. So check out our podcast. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Follow us on social media. This show is going to be growing. Our personality is going to be
But
growing.
don't follow us in real life, because we'll turn around and beat you back. Don't follow us.
Yeah, not figurative.
Just on YouTube. And
yeah, I do the following. That's my.
That's right.
I get
You
paid.
follow people.
I went down to Argentina to actually do some surveillance work.
I want to go to Brazil. I want to talk about this next time. There's a guy in Brazil who's killed hundreds of people. He's free.
All right.
I don't know. In Brazil, they like parole people.
Yeah.
He's convicted of at least 71 murders, and he lives in a town in Brazil. He's called Killer Pete. And he was originally sentenced to 400 years in prison. He was released in 2018. He's 67. I want to go. I want to meet Killer Pete.
I'll make a call to some of my jiu-jitsu friends. Maybe we'll get a Gracie or two to come with us.
He has I have tattoos. I know you have tattoos.
Yes.
But you don't have one like he has.
Don't tell me
which
you
on
have
his arm it says, "I kill for pleasure."
Do you have a tramp stamp on you above your ass?
No, that's you, and that's why the nurse put you in a doggy position. Like this guy, right. I know I can have my way with.
Right, I was mooning
No, on my leg I have a head, because I've worked with violent patients, right, yes. And others, yes. But a lot of others. Not everyone I work with is violent. I don't want to besmirch the reputation of it, but it's a head being ripped open by a pair of hands, mine presumably, and fire coming out of the head.
Oh. Well, I have my children's names on my body, so
Nice.
And I got a little cover-up work as well. We can talk about that's on another
cover-up work.
Yeah, like covering up names.
Yeah.
And the psychology behind putting someone's names on your body other than your children.
I also have my favorite what would that be, a verse, a stanza, what, I don't know, of my favorite poem on my side, which is, just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from. It says, "Everything terrible is something that needs our love."
Oh, interesting. Well, that's very deep. And on that note, Dr. Keith Ablow.
Deep is what the nurse was going to do to you.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
the doctor's hands were huge, by the way. But anyways,
Wow.
on that note, you hang tight. On that note, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on another episode. Take care.